For today's video, we will answer a math challenge given by one of our followers. And the question goes like this. Solve for all values of x that satisfies this equation, square root of square root of x equals x. Now you can pause this video if you want to give this problem a try. And now, let's answer this question together. Alright, so our goal here is to solve for all values of x that satisfies this equation, square root of square root of x equals x. So when we say all values of x, we are not relying on the real values of x. So we can also consider the complex solution or the imaginary solution to this equation. Alright, so what we're going to do is to square first on both sides. Now, if we do that, square root and squared cancel out. So the left hand side is just square root of x, and on the right hand side is just x squared. Again, to eliminate the square root, let's square on both sides. Now, square root and squared cancel out. So the left hand side is just x, and on the right hand side, x squared raised to the power of 2, this is simply equal to x raised to the power of 4. Now, to solve for all values of x, don't divide this by x. Instead, let's equate this to 0. We will use some factoring because we have a common factor of x. If we factor x, we get something like x multiplied by x cubed minus 1. Now, we will factor x cubed minus 1 because notice that when we have a cubed minus b cubed, we have an identity. It must be factored as follows. We have a minus b multiplied by a squared plus ab plus b squared. Now, take note that this 1 can be written as 1 cubed. So, here, a represents x and this b represents 1. So we can factor out x cubed minus 1 cubed as follows. We have x minus 1 multiplied by x squared plus x plus 1. Alright, now from here, we can now solve for the value of x. So let's use the 0 property. Since it is equal to 0, therefore, at least one of them must be equal to 0. So we have x equals to 0, x minus 1 equals to 0, x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0. Now, on the first equation, x equals to 0, that's done. On the second equation, let's add 1 on both sides. So we have x equals positive 1. That is the second value for x. Here's the first and here's the second. Now, let's focus on this quadratic equation, x squared plus x plus 1 equals to 0. So this is not factorable, so to solve for the value of x, let's use the quadratic formula. We have negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, the value of a must be the coefficient of x squared, which is positive 1. Now, the value of b is the coefficient of x, which is again positive 1. And the value of c is the constant term, which is again positive 1. So now, let's replace all a with positive 1. And then all b with positive 1. And then c with again positive 1. Now, let's simplify the number inside our radical sign. We have 1 squared is 1, minus 4, this will give us negative 3. Now, this negative 3 can be factored as negative 1 times 3. And we know, square root of negative 1 must be equal to I or imaginary number. So this is just I multiplied by square root of 3. So this is the third and fourth value of x. We have negative 1 plus I square root of 3 over 2, or x equals negative 1 minus I times square root of 3 all over 2. Therefore, we have 4 values of x that satisfies this equation. So given that square root of x equals x, then we have x equals to 0, x equals 1, or x equals negative 1 plus or minus I multiplied by square root of 3 all over 2. And as always, we are Done.